Welcome to step number 2 in the art of falling asleep, which is to balance versus relax. And this is my favorite distinction to make because this is what causes the most problems, the most emotional interference when we lose our faith in our ability to create the circumstance necessary for sleep. So we turn to outside sources. We really lose our sleep confidence here because we think, well, I can't do this on my own, so let me take a sleeping pill, let me take some melatonin, let me do a guided meditation even, which doesn't even sound like such a bad thing. But if you're doing this and you're relying on this, and if you can't sleep when you don't have this, then it's just kind of bringing to the surface this awareness that somewhere there's a belief that you can't do this on your own. And you're kind of seeing the evidence of it too, because the sleep confidence isn't there. So what we want to do is really understand the sleep process here so that we can make this distinction, because I know how crazy I sound to say you don't need to relax before falling asleep. And the distinction is you don't need to relax. You just need to become relaxed. And if you understand the sleep process, which I'm about to explain to you, it'll make more sense perhaps. But relaxation happens to us whenever chemical messengers in the brain, like GABA and melatonin, are distributed into the bloodstream or within the brain, and they induce sleepiness in us. We become relaxed, and then we just need to get out of the way. So if we think that we have to provide the relaxation, it's going to be really tough to fall asleep because we are becoming relaxed from an unrelaxed place, right? You wouldn't need to relax if you were already relaxed. So the effort to become relaxed is coming from an uncalibrated place. And it's a lot like somebody telling you to relax whenever they're noticing that you're getting a little bit huffy and puffy. Like, that could be really frustrating to try to be in charge of your own relaxation. It's not designed to be that way, right? It's designed to be a passive process. So the way to step around this challenge and not fall into the emotional trap is to balance first. By balancing first, you open up the pathways for natural intelligence to bring you relaxation. This is important. When we do this after deciding first, then we are well on the way to creating this path of least resistance. I've got a little hair thing going there. So what we want to do is balance. And how do you balance? Well, there are a few different ways to do that. Like, you could literally stand on one foot to find a little bit of balance. Like, that might help you balance the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. Maybe that's a little bit too active for you, but one way I like to do this is through breathing and starting with the peripheral nervous system. And this is a pranayama that comes from traditional Indian medicine, which is to use alternate breathing like this, like covering one nostril with the thumb, breathing in through the open nostril, closing this nostril, and then exhaling through the open nostril, breathing in through that same nostril, pausing at the top, switching over, exhaling through the open nostril, and just kind of repeating. This could be a little funky at first, but it's sort of like the electric slide. We've all done that, right? And it's a little funky at first, but then once you kind of catch the groove, it's fun. It's relaxing, or opens you up to relaxation. And then you can start throwing in your little own dance moves. And this is one I like because it engages the pineal gland. And it's just simply placing a finger over the third eye, and just connecting to that sleep, to that relaxation that's about to be induced. opening myself up to receiving that relaxation, right? So that's one way of doing it, starting on the peripheral nervous system and then working into the central nervous system. You could balance the central nervous system by doing something like the 5-5-7 breath, where you're inhaling for 5 seconds, holding it for 5 seconds, and exhaling for 7 seconds. And it doesn't have to be 5 seconds, just as long as your exhale is longer than your inhale. But that will balance your central nervous system. And it's a lot like, this is a good analogy for relaxation in general, but to find balance is a lot like hanging a picture in a house. If the house is on a tilt, if it's not level, then no matter where you balance the picture, something's going to be off. It's either going to be out of balance with a horizon, if you balance it, level to the floor of the house, or it's going to be not level to the house itself. So we want to start with think about balancing the peripheral nervous system as leveling the house, and then balancing the central nervous system as leveling the picture, so that they're both on level ground. And this is a lot like relaxation. If we try to become relaxed without balancing first, now we are, one, not using sleep confidence, but then we're out of alignment with sleep biologically too, because we haven't yet received the chemical messengers yet, right? So we might become relaxed, but if you find that you're relaxing and sleep, you still can't get over to the other side, being sleep, it's because biologically you're not in an appropriate situation. So relaxation is something that happens before sleep. It's just not something that's designed for you to create, right? So that's all I want you to think about here, is that if you use balance, you're practicing really good sleep confidence hygiene, and you're also in alignment conceptually with what happens on a biological level. All right, that's really key. Remember, when we do those two things, we become better sleepers every night that we fall asleep. And it's a beautiful process, because it's sort of like having money in a bank, in a savings account. And the more money that goes in, the more it gains interest, and the more flexibility that you have. And then eventually you get to this point where you start to master the steps of the art of falling asleep, and you don't have to use them anymore, which is the goal, because that's how we came into the world, right? Like as a baby, you weren't doing finger tapping to fall asleep, and cave people, we're just going to assume that they didn't have problems like not being able to shut off the brain. So this is all we want to do, is become organic human beings again. And step 2 is a real big distinction. It's a real important distinction. So you don't need to relax in order to fall asleep. You just need to get out of the way of the natural intelligence that's creating this relaxation. That's super subtle. It might challenge some beliefs, and if it does challenge your belief, like, maybe that's a really good thing. And let me know if this makes sense. Let me know how this works. If you try it, let me know if it doesn't work, right? And maybe there's an even more powerful distinction that we can make. If not, I will see you in step 3.